Alright, welcome back to the second half of this video. If you're just coming into this video, I'm talking about this symbol here, and I'm so deep inside the rabbit hole, like, you need to check the first video first if you're interested in the rest of what's going on. But if you're returning, welcome back, and let's continue. We left off on explaining this symbol, and we pretty much established that this is a symbol for capitalism. If you've done your research in between watching these videos, then you've most likely come across a triangle that looks like it's radiating. I also explained how I was going to speak on a religion. Before I continue, I want to be sure you know that, like, I know that talking about religion is a extremely sensitive subject, and I want you to know that I am in no way, shape, or form trying to hurt you or take away anything from you. Okay, I'm not trying to hurt you in any way. All right. I'm not trying to take anything from you either. I don't even want you to like and subscribe, because I don't want to be paid. I don't want anyone else to get paid either, just for me talking to you. Okay? I just want to believe me when I say I'm not trying to harm you. But let's recap on Adam Smith real quick. So what Adam Smith did was establish a basic understanding of human behavior. And essentially what he did was he put human behavior all in a category. Morale is the category. Selfishness is underneath that category. So, how he did this explaining was, well, from what I got from it was that it's a natural moral, but so is like selflessness. So is sad and all that stuff. So what he did was just basically say, since it's a natural occurrence, it's okay to do. But the earliest moments we observe selfishness is in children. It's when you grow up and realize the impact selfishness does, and you also realize the impact selflessness does. See, his philosophy was that if you basically went around and put your name on everything in the joint, then everybody else who's there has got to work for you to survive. And if they don't do what you want to do, then fuck them. That's what he indoctrinated all British descendants to believe in all throughout the 19th century. For 100 years, little white boys and girls were made to read a book that was designed to make them as selfish as possible, even if you had to jack their shit. This is evident in 1933 when this actual Roman Republic throws FDR at us, but they shrouded him in whatever the fuck made us feel good. And then he stole the Americans' money and then told them it was to boost the economy, because the people would have to go back to work even harder to get it back. Nobody fucking caught that. What else is in this category of human behavior? It is human behavior to question. It is also human behavior to want to name things, place labels. You see it all the time. People always want their own label. It's a part of being selfish. But this is a basic human behavior that's been happening all over the planet since the beginning of time. Now, all I'm trying to do is basically the same thing Adam Smith did. Is have a basic understanding of human behavior. So imagine this area, actually the entire world, before people had found their means of travel and to discover one another. Each area has their little area of people, right? And the same thing we do today when we come together to worship and things was most likely taking place back then, except they weren't inside cathedrals. They were just probably around a fire or something. But what they felt together, the same thing we feel today, is a human connection. What else is also human behavior? Placing labels. They need to identify what the hell they're feeling. Now, imagine in this area, there's a small group of people that learned how to coalesce and live in harmony. They worked together and they flourished, but there was no gold involved and no pillaging and plundering. But also imagine the entire world is descending upon you. Imagine that, because that's what was happening. If you look out through history in the early ages, the entire world just wanted their own shit. And it was, kill, pillage, and plunder. Take your shit, make it mine. Just imagine one small area around the Mediterranean, somebody made their attempt to save the world. And they told the story of a man. But they embellished it quite a bit. I'm pretty sure he wasn't walking on water. But hey, they were trying to save the world about how you can live in harmony. Greedy motherfuckers took that story, and all throughout for history, for about 1,000 years before we even fucking figured it out, they were using it for their own greed. Because look at any Bible. If you take out the story of Jesus, what is it fucking? The story of Jesus. It's mostly about tyranny and a bunch of horrific shit. You got to give the people their moral compass before you fucking scare the fuck out of them. So, that's pretty much where I think it comes from. So let's look at what's happened throughout history as they've taken this story. But at the same time, somebody realized that people were easily manipulated as a mass. That's evident today. So you see people throughout history trying to make themselves a god, using mythological stuff and scaring the crap out of people. Also, what you see throughout history is another part of human behavior, which is to question, put that shit through the test. How many times throughout history have people who have tried to deem themselves gods been put through the test? So if you're up here watching all these people deem themselves gods and get put to the test, how can you figure out how to be God without being put to the test? Make him invisible, and the only way you can test him is by dying. It's capitalistic genius. Which brings me to Christians. They have been trying to meld God and country since this place since America was established. Because either you're too afraid to question your God, or you're trying to save your special place in utopia. So if they meld the two, you ain't even going to question your government. It's all around absolute capitalistic genius. But then we come to the notion of God. Like, why the God thing? Well, we also see throughout, history, what people tend to do to their God. They relinquish all of their value for themselves. They give it all to their God, making them easy to control. When people do not value themselves, they don't do anything. Nothing gets done. They're easily manipulated to the point where you can actually convince someone to kill themselves. That's also evident. That's why they use gods. Because then, all of their slaves, or whatever, will relinquish all of their value to their God. And they won't question it because they're fucking terrified. Or they're trying to save their special place in utopia. So it's like even like a flipperoo thingy. It's like the selfish people just figured out how to use people's selfishness against them for their own selfishness. It's a mindfuck. We also learned that Adam Smith based his book on being absolute selfishness by being absolutely selfish and gaining absolute advantage by putting your name on everything. We also learned that the earliest times that we see selfishness is in children. And the only solution you got to do is grow up. Adam Smith indoctrinated British descendants with his book, The Wealth of Nations, in the 1900s to be as selfish as possible. It explains every single thing today, because how can like 1,000 years of brainwash not fuck up the mind? It does. When I see people walking into a fire, like, it's my right, it's my right, it's my right, it makes sense to me. Which brings me down to this here. I learned what my Declaration of Independence actually says. And right here now, as a true American, I say unto you as completely selfless, because I value myself being the helping hand rather than getting a helping hand. I don't want anything from you. I don't want your money. All I ask is that you value yourself as much as you value your gods. You don't even have to relinquish your gods. Just value yourself just as much. Okay? Don't think that you are not as great. Ever. Value yourself. Because if everybody valued themselves on the planet, then you would actually have the power of the gods. That's the only way I can describe it. So, here and now, me, myself, as a true American, I say unto you that I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. I will continue to be a beacon in the darkness for those that are poor, tired, and hungry, and yearning to breathe free because I am an American. I salute you. Please value yourself. Do not walk into the fire. Until next time, have a wonderful night.